Good afternoon, everyone. Laurel Libby coming to you live from Auburn in my backyard where I am enjoying this beautiful day. It is maybe the warmest day we've had all week, and I am very much enjoying that. I hope you are as well. Wanted to come to you live tonight real quick and do a bit of an explanation around LD227, which folks have seen some information about on my page. Hi Priscilla. So first of all, before I jump into everything, please go ahead and let me know where you're tuning in from. I would like to know where in Maine or around the country, wherever you're tuning in from. I'd love to know where that is. So please do go ahead and pop in the comments and let me know where you're tuning in from. Secondly, let me just outline what we're going to cover. We are, of course, talking about LD227. And so we are going to be talking about a few different things. We're going to be talking about what does this bill do exactly? What is it? What are the mechanics of it? There's a lot of questions around that, so we're going to be diving right in. We're going to be contrasting it to a previous bill that we heard this session, LD1735. LD1735 is a bill that there are some similarities, but there are a lot of key differences as well. So thirdly, why is it bad? Why is this bill so bad? What are the things about it that make it terrible for Maine, terrible for parents around the country? And so we will dive into that. And then after that, we're going to talk about what to do. What can Maine people do in regards to this bill coming up this week? So before we dive into that, though, if you could please go ahead, and if you think you've got friends and family that are going to want to be in the know with what is going on with LD227, please share this live. Liking, sharing, commenting, all of those things help increase the activity. And I think this is a really important topic that a lot of people care about. So if you agree, if you could please share this video, that would be a huge help. So thank you guys for tuning in, for commenting where you're from, and for sharing this post so we can get the word out about this terrible bill. So here goes. First up, what does it do exactly? Well, we're going to talk about what it does in combination with the comparison to LD1735. If you don't know what LD1735 was, it was the bill that we nicknamed the Transgender Tourism Bill. And that bill was killed in the Judiciary Committee a month or so ago. It was killed unanimously, and now we know why. Now we know why, because the Democrats have brought forward this new bill that does a lot of the same things, but does a lot more. They were doing a trial run, now they've finessed what they want, and they're bringing forward LD227. So, what does it do exactly? LD227 makes gender-affirming healthcare services and sorry, my notes, guys. It's a little bit windy out here. Reproductive healthcare services, i.e. transgender treatments, surgeries, the whole 9 yards. There's a lot encapsulated in that. And abortion services makes that a legal right. So it takes both, unlike 1735, which was just transgender, it takes both transgender healthcare services and abortion, and it makes those a legal right. A legal right. Now, this is not a constitutional amendment, but that's probably only because they know they can't get 2/3 of the legislature. This bill would make abortion and transgender treatments, whether that be surgeries, medications, whatever, a legal right. And interfering with this right is against state policy, according to LD227. So, what does that look like with all of the practical aspects of this bill? Broadly defined, that is the hugest thing with this bill. Both of those terms are very, very, very broadly defined. So as far as reproductive healthcare services, we're talking about abortion, we're talking about in vitro, we're talking about surrogacy, we're talking about everything. And while I certainly appreciate the enthusiasm for some of those aspects that are encouraging life, the whole category of reproductive health care is not a right. And this bill would make it a right. And then when we talk about the gender affirming healthcare, this is including things like chest binders, prosthetics, surgery, medications, etc. Broadly defined. So that's piece number one. Also, as this is a legal right, it says that no one, including private citizens, can interfere with this right. And it also leaves room for the state to be required to pay for these services. Remember, these services are a right, right? Abortion and transgender care are a right. So if someone can't afford it, well, who's on the hook? The state. That means you, the taxpayer, is on the hook. So if you're wondering who's going to be paying for this, the answer is that you are going to be paying for this. So a couple of the hugest things that are different from LD 1735 we're getting into. And these are why I refer to it as a bill that is allowing state-sanctioned kidnapping, that is endorsing trafficking, that is taking all parental rights away, not just here in our state. This is Maine legislating for the entire country. For the entire country. So Maine Democrat legislators know better than the parents, the courts, everyone in 49 other states. That's what this bill says. So how does it do that? Well, in 1735, there was a section of that bill that said that law enforcement should consider, let's say someone brought a child from another state that was not the custodial parent. Well, law enforcement was told, kind of, make it your lowest priority. Don't go after these cases. This bill goes much, much further than that. So this bill actually says that any litigation regarding these two quote-unquote rights should be considered hostile litigation. What does that mean in real language, right? So lawsuits in Maine against a person who is, like, use the example, right? Someone brings a child from another state. They're not the custodial parent. They might not be a parent at all. The courts are not going to be allowed to do anything about that. And in fact, litigation about that situation will be considered hostile litigation. And there is actually a way for the person involved, yes, the kidnapper, essentially, to file litigation of their own against the custodial, the folks who actually have custody of that child. So we'll dive into that a little bit more, but that is one piece that is drastically different from LD 1735, is that LD 227 would, instead of just telling law enforcement to turn a blind eye, it will actually forbid Maine courts from doing anything to rectify the situation. So if a parent has a court judgment in another state, that will not carry weight in Maine. And so that's where I'm saying this would say that Maine knows better. Maine legislators working to pass this bill know better than the parents, the courts, the folks who love the children who could be coming to Maine. Maine legislators know better. They are ready to parent the children of America, and they can do that better than you can. So, for example, if parents in Georgia filed a lawsuit to stop an aunt, okay, an aunt in Georgia from transporting a child to Maine for transgender surgery, okay, she wants to bring her niece to Maine and help that child get surgery to turn from a girl to a boy. LD 227 would allow the aunt to actually sue that child's parents and seek punitive damages against the parents. That's insanity. That's insanity. That is allowing a kidnapper to seek damages against the lawful actual parents of a child in the course of bringing that child to another state and getting that child life-altering surgery. It's just mind-blowing that this is legislation that we are seeing here in Maine. So LD 227, as part of that, prohibits Maine courts from enforcing a judgment from another state. So that's where that trafficking comes in. Maine courts will have their hands tied. They will not be allowed to enforce judicial actions from another state. They will not be able to rectify a situation where someone else is bringing a child to Maine. And that's why I say not only state-sanctioned kidnapping, but also state-sanctioned trafficking. When we're talking about abortion services, there's nothing to say that a child cannot be raped and then brought to Maine for an abortion. And folks in another state would have no recourse whatsoever through the court system because Maine would not allow it, because that child has a right to reproductive health care services, and it would be against state policy to allow interference in that right. So this bill is legislating for the entire United States. And so was 1735. But 1735 didn't go this far. It just said, hey, kind of turn a blind eye and make it your lowest priority. This actually says the state of Maine is not allowed to do anything about it. And so what is going on with it now? You have heard, I'm sure, that there is a public hearing in HCIFS, that's Health Coverage Insurance Financial Services, regarding this bill on Tuesday. We just heard about it on Friday. Why would there be a public hearing on Tuesday? Well, here's why. Long story short, this was a bill, LD 227. From that number alone, you know it was early on in the legislative session in 2023. This was one of the first bills submitted out of the couple thousand. This was one of the first ones submitted. So LD 227 was submitted as a concept draft, which means the original bill, which you can still find on the state website, has only a sentence or two. It's essentially a placeholder. And so this bill was purportedly going to be a bill that was about health insurance, health insurance and things that should belong in HCIFS. It was submitted by the two chairs of that committee, Senator Bailey and Representative Ann Perry from Calais. And so what happens with these placeholder bills is that then at a certain point, that language is replaced by an amendment. And so last Wednesday or so, this amendment was very casually and quietly emailed out to the members of the committee. It was not added to the state website. It was very quietly dispersed. And by Friday afternoon, and I'll just tell you, we legislators are inundated with email. So by Friday afternoon, the committee members were going, what's up with this bill? And that's when I heard about it. And so we quickly realized how bad this bill is. It's probably the worst bill I have ever seen or could ever imagine. There are other components about it I'll revisit in a minute, but so the Democrats' plan was bury this bill in HCIFS, schedule the public hearing for election day, right? Schedule it for the presidential primary day. And email out the amendment. Don't post it on the website. Email out the amendment. No big deal, nothing to see here. 21-page amendment. And why? Why go to so much trouble to obfuscate and hide what is going on? I'll tell you why. Because they don't want you to hear about it. They don't want you to show up to the State House. They don't want you to hold them accountable. They don't want Maine people anywhere near this. They want Maine people to hear nothing, see nothing, and they want to pass this under the cover of darkness. And so it is our job to bring light to this issue, and it is our job to show up and speak against it, because this cannot be tolerated. I am in Augusta because I want a more free and prosperous Maine for my kids, and this bill is coming after our kids. This bill is attacking the next generation, and I will not sit by and tolerate that, and I hope that you will not sit by and tolerate that either. This, I can't even fathom if this passes, what it will do to our state, what it will do to the next generation, what it will do to our children, and how it will harm them. And not just Maine children, children across the country. We are fighting for a generation of children, not just in our state, but in our entire country by fighting against this bill. And so when I tell you the stakes have never been higher, the stakes have never been higher. This bill is worse than LD 1619. This bill is worse than LD 1735. It is the most heinous bill I could have ever possibly imagined. There are provisions in it that say if you have licensing issues, if you are a healthcare provider and you provide, as they call it, gender affirming healthcare services or reproductive healthcare services, meaning if you perform transgender surgeries and abortions, you can come to Maine and practice in Maine, even if you have issues with your license in another state. Doesn't matter. Come to Maine and practice. Even if you have adverse actions against you in another state, you can come and you can give gender-affirming treatments in Maine. We will welcome you with open arms, even if your license is no good in another state. We'll take you here. And that is who is going to be caring for the children of Maine and the children of our country. So, what can you do about it? The public hearing for LD 227 is coming up on Tuesday at 1 p.m. in the HCIFS committee. It does not belong there. It should be in judiciary. They're hiding it. It's all part of their scheme to try to pass this under the cover of darkness and not let you find out about it. So it's going to be in the HCIFS committee on Tuesday at 1 p.m. That's in the Cross building. If you want to be caught up on what is going on with this, how you can participate in the public hearing, please go to speakupforlife.com and sign up to be on my mailing list. I will be sending out an update tomorrow morning about how folks can be involved with the public hearing. So that is, again, speakupforlife.com, and you can sign up for email updates there. But bigger than that, this is just one more attack in a long line of attacks. This is the worst attack, but this is just one more attack on our children in this case. It's like we are trying to stamp out these fires one at a time, just one at a time. There's blazes catching fire around our state over and over and over again, different issues, whether it's local issues or what. But the big picture, all of these issues, what they have in common is that the Democrats have been in charge in Augusta for a long, long time. So whether we're talking about LD 1619, whether we're talking about LD 227, whether we're talking about any other bill, whether we're talking about EV mandates, whether we're talking about the biggest tax increase we've had in state history in the last couple decades, whatever issue we're talking about, it all comes back to the same thing. It all comes back to the fact that the Democrats are in charge in Augusta, and until they are not in charge in Augusta, we're going to see the same thing over and over again. And so our state is on fire. It's not just little blazes here and there anymore. Our state is on fire. It is burning down. And until we change who is in charge of this state, that is what we can expect. That is what we will continue to see in our state, is our state burning down, parental rights being wrested away, state-sanctioned kidnapping being passed as the law in our land. And so if you want to stop stomping out little fires that are getting bigger and bigger and bigger around our state, then we have got to boot these people out of office. And we've got to do it this year. 2024, it's an election year. And so I will be there fighting against LD 227. This is way too big of a fire to leave unattended. We have to fight this. But at the end of the day, we have to boot these legislators out of office that think that this kind of policy and this attack on our children is okay. It is not okay. So if you want to fight with me in that battle and help boot these legislators out of office and take back our state, then join me as a member at the dinner table, because we are working to flip seats, boot out bad legislators, and elect good constitutional conservatives who will uphold parental rights, who will not burn our state down, but who will uphold the Constitution and who care about our liberty, who care about making Maine a more free and prosperous state. And so if that sounds like something that you can get behind, please join us as a member at the dinner table so we can stop putting out little fires all over our state and start advancing better ideas, better policies, and protecting our children, because our children are the future of this state. And this legislation right here, LD 227, this is going to burn down the next generation. So join me on Tuesday at the Cross Building at 1 p.m. for a public hearing before HCIFS on LD 227. And join me today as a member of the dinner table at dinnertableaction.com. dinnertableaction.com. Help us fight to take our state back this year. Help us stop trying to fight these fires, but take back control once and for all. And I look forward to seeing you on Tuesday. If you have questions, post them in the comments. I'd be happy to try to answer them. If you want to be on my mailing list so you can get more information about LD 227, go to speakupforlife.com and I will add you once you request to be signed up on my list. I saw a couple come through while I was doing the live. And if you want to stop the insanity and make real change in our state, then join me as a member of the dinner table at dinnertableaction.com today. Thank you guys very much. I will see you soon.